Hey all, welcome to ShareTrack. This is Raj here, friends. I decided to make this separate video to give you my feedback on what I think is happening right now with the US-China trade talks. I'm looking at both the US side as well as the Chinese side, and that gives us an idea of what to expect from this because the market has gone up expecting things to happen from the US-China deal, and the technicals do not allow for that, and the fundamentals right now do not allow for that kind of a jump. So let me give you my 2 cents about it. This is what we have here with regard to the US position. I'm reading it from CNBC. So you can see the live news out here. It says stocks advanced Wednesday as investors monitored the latest updates on US trade negotiations and looked towards the Federal Reserve interest rate announcement expected later in the day. Now, going further, there's very little news about who set this up and why it was set up and what was the objective. It says futures rose on news that US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and top trade official Jamieson Greer would meet with their Chinese counterparts this week in Switzerland. Investors took that as a positive on the trade front and after the turbulent market action following President Donald Trump's tariff announcement last month. And Bessent said, my sense is that this would be about de-escalation, not about the big trade deal. But we have got to de-escalate before we can move forward. And Bessent had mentioned in the past also that this situation is unsustainable for both parties. So Bessent is the adult in the room, and I am thinking that he is convincing Donald Trump to get off the high horse and have discussions. And China says that we are not coming to the White House, you come here. And I think the compromise was to meet somewhere in Switzerland. So here is how it has been mentioned in the Global Times, which is a Chinese newspaper. So it says upcoming China-US trade talks are arranged at US request. Chinese FM on Chinese Vice Premier to hold talks with US representatives in Switzerland. It says regarding China's expectations for the upcoming talks between Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng and US representatives in Switzerland, jointly announced by China's Ministry of Commerce and Foreign Ministry. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said on Wednesday that the US side has recently expressed its willingness to engage in negotiations with China. The meeting is arranged at the request of the US side. Lin emphasized that China's firm opposition to the US arbitrary imposition of tariffs remains unchanged. We have stated on many occasions that China is open to dialogue, but any talks must be based on equality, mutual respect, and reciprocity. Pressure or coercion in any form will not work on China, Lin said. China will resolutely safeguard its legitimate rights and interests and uphold international fairness and justice. So that's their approach. Friends, the way I'm looking at this is that Trump has not got any deals under his belt. India has done a super deal with UK for free trade, and Japan, China, and South Korea are doing deals. And Trump is saying we don't need any deals, we don't have to sign, they have to sign and all that. But Bessent knows the stock market, he knows the business, economy, tariffs and other things, what they really mean. And he has been telling for a while now that this is unsustainable for both sides. I think that Bessent has somehow managed to convince Trump to get off the high horse and maybe we don't go to Beijing, but let us meet at a neutral venue. And he has negotiated that with the Chinese. And the Chinese said that they are being reasonable and they are willing to meet at a neutral venue. But what will happen at the neutral venue? China will insist that first you take off all the tariffs and then we can talk. And then they will go back again. And it will be Bessent's job to convince Trump to take off all the tariffs. And as far as Trump is concerned, I think that's the way he's behaved in his personal business as well. He thinks if he pays for something that he gets, then he's being ripped off. So he has not paid contractors in the past as per reports that we have heard. And also the cities where he held rallies, his campaign has not paid them the money for the police protection and other things. So this is a track record for Trump. And he firmly believes that when US buys $200 billion worth of goods from Canada, they are actually subsidizing Canada by giving $200 billion to Canada. So this is his worldview, this is his view of business. And Bessent is going to have a tough time convincing Trump that he has to drop the tariffs on China. That's going to take empty shelves, and that's going to take public protest and other things. So from a retail investor perspective, the way I'm looking at this is I'm continuing to be short on S&P 500, and I'm thinking that the stocks have got to come down. We will have a press release coming out of the conference that takes place between China and US in Switzerland, but the way the Chinese may present that would be different from the way the US might present that. Because if you see, the US media has not mentioned that it's at the request of China. At the same time, they're not mentioning that it's at their request, because Trump doesn't want to show a sign of weakness. Because if he had requested for this, it would be a sign of weakness in his mind. So there will be the distortion by the press because of the way it is presented. And we have to look at both the sides and then make our own judgment who is saying what. With that, my friends, I'd like to end this video here. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now.